fight?
Oh, Daddy's gotta go to work.
Future, just look behind you. You can't outrun them. If you want to glimpse the
This is a world that doesn't play by your rules.
past.
God! Cars don't fly!
And you and your friends are a part of it now.
Let's do this.
I don't have friends. I got family.
The Fast Furious 7 is not just an action movie, it's an emotional farewell that touched millions around the world. With breathtaking stunts, the powerful theme of family, and a heartfelt tribute to Paul Walker, this 2015 blockbuster became one of the most memorable films in the franchise. On Ms. Cinema Film, we break down the full movie review and reveal amazing behind-the-scenes facts you may have never noticed. Furious 7, also called Fast Furious 7, is a 2015 American action movie directed by James Wan and written by Chris Morgan. It continues the story after Fast Furious 6 from 2013 and also connects to the Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift from 2006. This movie is the seventh part of the Fast Furious series. The film features a large cast, including Vin Diesel, Paul Walker in his final movie role, Dwayne Johnson, Michelle Rodriguez, Tyrese Gibson, Ludacris, Jordana Brewster, Jimon Hounsou, Kurt Russell, and Jason Statham. The story follows Dominic Toretto, Brian O'Connor, and their team as they are hired by a secret operations leader known as Mr. Nobody. Their mission is to stop a dangerous terrorist named Most Jikan from getting a powerful hacking system called God's Eye, while they are also being chased by Deckard Shaw, who wants revenge for his brother Owen Shaw. The idea for a seventh movie was first shared in February 2012, when Dwayne Johnson mentioned that filming would begin after Fast Furious 6 was completed. In April 2013, James Wan, who was mostly known for making horror films, was chosen to direct the movie. During the same time, it was confirmed that both Vin Diesel and Paul Walker would return. Filming started in September 2013 in Atlanta, but production was suddenly stopped in November after Paul Walker tragically died in a car accident. Filming began again in April 2014 and finished in July. Paul Walker's brothers, Caleb and Cody, helped complete his remaining scenes. Because of these events, the movie's release was delayed until 2015. Other filming locations included Los Angeles, Colorado, Abu Dhabi, and Tokyo. Brian Tyler, who had previously worked on Fast 5, returned to compose the music for the film. With a production budget reaching around $250 million, Furious 7 became one of the most expensive movies ever made. Furious 7 had its premiere at the TCL Chinese Theater in Los Angeles on April 1, 2015, and was released across the United States on April 3 by Universal Pictures. The movie was a huge success at the box office and received positive feedback from critics, especially for its action scenes and its emotional tribute to Paul Walker. Many fans and critics believed it was one of the best movies in the Fast Furious series. The film earned about $1.515 billion worldwide, making it one of the highest-earning movies of 2015 and one of the top-grossing films of all time when it was released. It also broke records with one of the biggest opening weekends ever. Internationally, it became the highest-earning film of 2015 and the fastest film in the franchise to reach the top box office numbers. A sequel, titled The Fate of the Furious, was later released in April 2017. After defeating Owen Shaw and receiving pardons for their past crimes, Dominic Toretto, Brian O'Connor, and the rest of the team returned to the United States to live peaceful and normal lives. Dom focuses on helping Letty Ortiz recover her lost memories, while Brian adjusts to his new life as a father. They all try to move forward and enjoy a calmer future after years of danger. At the same time, Owen Shaw's older brother, Deckard Shaw, breaks into a hospital in London where Owen is being kept in a coma. Filled with anger, Deckard promises to take revenge on everyone responsible for his brother's condition. He later breaks into a DSS field office in Los Angeles to steal detailed files on Dom's crew. During his escape, Deckard fights Luke Hobbs and sets off a bomb that badly injures Hobbs. Dom soon learns from his sister Mia that she is pregnant again and encourages her to tell Brian. However, before they can fully process the news, a package sent by Deckard explodes and destroys Dom's family home. It is also revealed that Deckard has seemingly killed Han Lu in Tokyo. Dom visits Hobbs in the hospital and learns the truth about Deckard. He then travels to Tokyo to bring back Han's body. While there, Dom races Sean Boswell and receives personal items found at the crash site. Back in Los Angeles, Dom, Brian, Tej Parker, and Roman Pierce gather to honor Han and Giselle Yasher. During the gathering, Dom notices Deckard watching them and chases him into an underground tunnel. Before anything can happen, a secret government team arrives, led by an agent known as Mr. Nobody. Mr. Nobody offers to help Dom stop Deckard if Dom agrees to help him recover a powerful tracking program called God's Eye and rescue its creator, Ramsey, who has been kidnapped by a dangerous terrorist named Mose Jakand. The team travels to the Caucasus Mountains in Azerbaijan, where they parachute their modified cars from a plane and attack Jakand's convoy. They successfully rescue Ramsey and then head to Abu Dhabi. There, they steal a flash drive containing the God's Eye chip from a wealthy man driving a rare Lykan Hypersport. Once God's Eye is in their possession, Dom, Brian, and Mr. Nobody try to use it to locate Deckard at an abandoned factory. However, they are ambushed by Jakand and his men, who have teamed up with Deckard. The group is forced to escape, and Jakand manages to steal God's Eye. Mr. Nobody is taken away for medical treatment, and the team returns to Los Angeles. Dom decides to face Deckard alone, while Letty, Brian, Tej, and Roman stay behind to protect Ramsey from Jakand. Brian promises Mia that once the fight is over, he will fully commit himself to their family. As Jakand attacks the team using a stealth helicopter and a drone, Ramsey works desperately to hack into God's Eye. Despite being injured, Hobbs leaves the hospital and destroys the drone by crashing an ambulance into it. Brian then takes control of a signal tower, allowing Ramsey to access God's Eye and shut it down completely. As the military moves into the city, Jakand tries to escape and notices Dom and Deckard fighting on top of a parking garage. Jakand attacks both of them, but Dom uses the chaos to defeat Deckard by causing part of the garage to collapse. Dom then drives his car toward Jakand's helicopter, plants a bag of grenades inside, and crashes onto the rubble below. Hobbs shoots the grenades, destroying the helicopter and killing Jakand. After the battle, Brian and Hobbs help Letty pull Dom from the wreckage. Letty holds Dom and tells him that she has fully regained her memories, including their wedding. Dom wakes up and survives. Deckard is arrested by Hobbs and the CIA and locked away in a secret prison. The team later relaxes on a peaceful tropical beach. Brian and Mia play with their son Jack, while Dom, Letty, Roman, Tej, and Ramsey watch, accepting that Brian has chosen a happy life with his family. Dom drives away, and Brian joins him for one final ride. As Dom remembers their journey together, the two friends say goodbye and drive off in separate directions, ending their story as brothers. The ensemble cast of Furious 7 brought together returning franchise staples with new additions that elevated the film's intensity and emotional depth. Vin Diesel reprised his role as Dominic Toretto, the unflappable leader of the crew, whose gravelly voice and commanding presence anchored the story amid escalating threats. Paul Walker returned as Brian O'Connor, the former FBI agent turned family man, delivering a performance marked by his signature charm and athleticism in action sequences, though his tragic death during production added layers of poignancy to his final portrayal. Dwayne Johnson portrayed Luke Hobbs, the towering DSS agent whose superhuman strength provided both comic relief and brute force heroism, particularly in hospital escape brawls and drone-destroying feats. Michelle Rodriguez embodied Letty Ortiz, Dom's resilient love interest struggling with amnesia, showcasing fierce driving skills and hand-to-hand combat prowess that reinforced her as one of the franchise's strongest female characters. Tyrese Gibson played Roman Pierce, the comic relief with impeccable timing, whose banter lightened tense moments while still contributing to high-stakes chases. Chris Ludacris Bridges returned as Tej Parker, the tech-savvy genius handling gadgets and hacks, often pairing with Roman for humorous exchanges. Jordana Brewster portrayed Mia Toretto, Brian's wife and Dom's sister, whose domestic scenes grounded the film's themes of family, though her filming schedule delayed due to other commitments made her emotional scenes particularly challenging. New antagonists and allies expanded the roster. Jason Statham debuted as Deckard Shaw, the vengeful ex-Special Forces operative seeking retribution for his brother Owen's fate from the previous film. Statham's cold, methodical fighting style clashed explosively with the crew's improvised chaos. Kurt Russell joined as Mr. Nobody, the enigmatic government operative offering the team resources in exchange for their help, bringing a suave, authoritative vibe reminiscent of his action hero roots. Natalie Emmanuel introduced Ramsey, the brilliant hacker creator of the God's Eye surveillance program, whose quick wit and resourcefulness integrated her seamlessly into the group dynamic. Supporting roles included Jimin Hansu as Most Jikand, the terrorist mercenary pursuing Ramsey and the God's Eye, providing a secondary threat with military precision. Tony Jaa appeared as Kai Eat, a skilled fighter in Abu Dhabi sequences, delivering martial arts flair. Additional cameos and archive footage featured Sung Kang as Han Lu, tying back to earlier entries, and brief appearances from others like Elsa Pataky as Elena Neves. The cast's chemistry, honed over multiple films for veterans, blended with fresh energy from newcomers, creating a family-like bond on screen that mirrored the story's core motif. Casting decisions reflected careful planning to escalate the franchise's scope. Statham's addition as a formidable villain shifted the series toward more personal vendettas, his physicality matching the crew's in brutal confrontations. Russell's Mr. Nobody introduced a layer of shadowy government intrigue, allowing for bigger set pieces. Emmanuel's Ramsey diversified the team with tech expertise, moving beyond pure muscle cars to digital warfare. Walker's role, central to the emotional arc, was crafted to provide closure, emphasizing Brian's desire for a normal life with Mia and their children. Behind the scenes, director James Wan, known for horror hits like Saw and Insidious, brought a kinetic visual style to the action, emphasizing practical stunts over heavy CGI where possible. Writer Chris Morgan, a series veteran, rewrote portions post Walker's death to honor his legacy. Producers including Vin Diesel, Neil H. Moritz, and Michael Fodrell navigated immense challenges to complete the project respectfully. Production on Furious 7 began in September 2013, primarily in Atlanta, Georgia, with additional shooting in locations like Abu Dhabi, Colorado's Pikes Peak, and Tokyo for authenticity and global chases. The budget swelled to an estimated $198-250 million, reflecting ambitious stunts and post-production needs. Principal photography halted abruptly on November 30, 2013, following Paul Walker's fatal car accident, with roughly half his scenes remaining. Resumption in April 2014 involved extensive rewrites to retire Brian O'Connor gracefully rather than kill him off. Walker's brothers, Caleb and Cody, served as body doubles, their similar builds allowing for seamless integration. Weighted digital handled over 350 visual effects shots, mapping Paul's face onto doubles using scans and repurposed footage from prior films. Outtakes provided dialogue, relit and recontextualized for new scenes like Brian's garage conversation with Mia drawn from a deleted Fast Five moment or the plane chat with Dom echoing fatherhood discussions. This meticulous process ensured authenticity, with CGI focusing on facial replacement while preserving Walker's mannerisms. Jordana Brewster filmed her intimate scenes last, acting opposite doubles or green screen stand-ins, heightening the emotional weight as she processed real grief. The crew's dedication transformed tragedy into tribute, culminating in the poignant farewell sequence set to See You Again by Wiz Khalifa and Charlie Puth. The plot picks up after Fast Furious 6, with Dom's crew enjoying amnesty and attempting normal lives. Brian adjusts to fatherhood with Mia and son Jack, while Dom aids Letty's memory recovery. Peace shatters when Deckard Shaw targets them for hospitalizing his brother Owen, killing Han in Tokyo, bombing Dom's home, and attacking Hobbs. At Han's funeral, Dom spots Shaw, sparking a destructive car duel. Mr. Nobody recruits the team to retrieve God's Eye, a hacking device locating anyone via camera, and rescue Ramsey from Jikand. In the Caucasus Mountains, cars airdrop from a cargo plane, landing in a convoy ambush. Brian boards a teetering bus to free Ramsey as it plunges off a cliff, leaping to Letty's car in a gravity-defying grab. In Abu Dhabi, the team infiltrates a billionaire's party, stealing God's eye hidden in a Lycan hypersport. Pursuit leads to the iconic skyscraper jump. Dom and Brian crash the hypercar through Etihad Tower's windows, soaring between buildings before plummeting safely after the third. Back in Los Angeles, Jacquand deploys the device with drone and helicopter assaults. Hobbs joins the fray, smashing a drone. Ramsey hacks to disable God's eye as Brian redirects signals. Dom confronts Shaw in a parking garage fistfight, collapsing the structure to bury him temporarily. Dom then rams Jacquand's chopper with his charger, surviving a fiery crash. Letty regains full memories, reaffirming her bond with Dom. Shaw is imprisoned, Jacquand defeated. Brian chooses family over the life, sharing a wordless drive with Dom before parting ways, the roads diverging as a metaphor for farewell. Furious 7's action sequences pushed practical effects boundaries, minimizing CGI to about 10% for safety wire removal or enhancements. The airdrop over the Caucasus involved real cars dropped from C-130 planes at high altitude, filmed by skydiving cameramen. Engines revved mid-fall for controlled landings at 35 to 40 miles per hour. Cranes erased digitally. Stunt coordinator Spiro Razzatos emphasized realism, calling it all real and difficult to top. The bus cliff sequence demanded perfect timing. A secured bus pushed over an edge as Brian's double ran its side, leaping to a spinning car below one take only due to destruction. Abu Dhabi's Lycan jumps used rigged vehicles crashing through replica glass, combined with plate shots for tower traversal. Only a few actual Lycans existed, so precision was critical. Los Angeles finale featured multi-block destruction, Hobbs flexing out of a cast to machine gun a drone, Roman's comedic mishaps, Tej's tech counters. Dom's garage collapse with Shaw involved layered practical collapses and fights. Over 3,500 man-days went into stunts, blending driving, martial arts, Tony Jazz contributions, and vehicular combat. Brian Tyler's score amplified tension, mixing orchestral swells with hip-hop tracks like Payback and the tribute See You Again. Runtime clocked at 137 minutes theatrical, with an extended cut adding fights and shootouts. Released April 3, 2015, after premiere at TCL Chinese Theater, Furious 7 shattered records. Opening weekend hit $147.2 million domestically, at the largest April debut en route to $353 million US.S./Canada and $1.516 billion worldwide. Fastest to $1 billion in 17 days. Emotional resonance from Walker's tribute-fueled legs, outgrossing predecessors massively. Critics praised on Rotten Tomatoes, 81% approval, highest in series then, for thrills, heart, and handling of Walker's absence. Metacritic scored 67/100 for favorable reviews. Many hailed it as franchise peak, over the top yet emotionally grounded, with Statham's villainy and Wan's direction elevating spectacle. Some noted runtime bloat or formulaic elements, but consensus lauded the send-off. Awards included nominations for screen ensembles, stunts, and song. It won multiple Teen Choice and MTV honors. The film's success cemented Fast Furious as a billion-dollar juggernaut, blending adrenaline, family themes, and real-world grief into blockbuster catharsis. The casting of Jason Statham as Deckard Sholm marked a pivotal escalation, introducing a villain capable of matching the crew physically and tactically. His background as a rogue assassin provided motive depth, avenging Oina while allowing brutal, no-holds-barred fights contrasting the team's loyalty-driven chaos. Statham performed many stunts himself, including the tunnel headbutt clash with Dom and garage brawl. Kurt Russell's Mr. Nobody added wry humor and moral ambiguity, his recruitment pitch enabling globe-trotting scale. Natalie Emmanuel's Ramsey evolved from damsel to integral member, her hacking pivotal in climaxes. Jimon Hounsou's Jacquand offered mercenary menace, his armed convoy and aerial assaults raising stakes. Returning players deepened arcs, Rodriguez's Letty reclaimed identity through action, her rockslide survival and fights showcasing growth. Gibson and Bridges' Roman Tej duo delivered Levicha Roman's fear gags, Tej's confidence balancing intensity. Johnson's Hobbs, Sidelined early, exploded back with iconic arm flex and drone takedown. Walker's Brian centered the heart. Domestic scenes with Brewster's Mia highlighted his retirement pull, contrasting adrenaline addiction. Post-death completion used brothers Caleb and Cody extensively, plus actor John Brotherton for some body work, ensuring natural performance. Production hurdles tested resolve. Initial July 2014 release delayed to 2015 for rewrites and effects. Atlanta served as hub, with Abu Dhabi's rebate luring opulent sequences. Pikes Peak provided mountainous drops, weighed as 350 plus shots meticulously recreated Walker, face mapping, stubble detailing, repurposed lines forming new dialogue. Director Wan navigated horror to action shift masterfully, using long takes in fights and dynamic camera for chases. Cinematographers Stephen F. Winden and Mark Spicer captured vibrant globals. Editors like Christian Wagner pieced emotional beats amid spectacle. Stunts breakdown reveals ingenuity. Caucasus airdrop, multiple drops refined trajectory, real falls filmed live. Bus sequence, one-shot cliff push synchronized leap, skyscraper traversal, partial practical crashes into towers, full jumps composited. LA destruction, hundreds of cars wrecked practically. Themes of family permeated, Dom's nothing stronger mantra, Brian's choice prioritizing Mia, Jack, Crew's unbreakable bonds. Tribute ending a Brian driving off, Wiz Khalifa lyrics overlaying Montagia evoked tears, dedicating to for Paul. Box office dominance reflected cultural impact, record April openings, global billions partly from curiosity and catharsis post-Walker. Critical acclaim focused on respectful closure, propelling sequels while standing as emotional high. The Lycan hyper-sport sequence epitomized excess, rare car, $3+ million each, destroyed multiple times via replicas. Party infiltration blended glamour and heist. Tower jumps defied physics yet thrilled through practical base. Caucasus rescue, convoy ambush post-drop, Brian's bus infiltration amid gunfire, rock slides. Cliff leap, timed perfection, wires erased. Finale chaos, drone, helicopter barrage, street warfare, garage collapse, Dom parking charger atop falling levels, grenade bag destruction of chopper. Supporting elements like soundtrack hits, Ride Out, Go Hard or Go Home, amplified energy. Furious 7 balanced absurdity with sincerity. Its cast performances of veterans' familiarity, newcomers' freshness and production triumphs over adversity creating enduring legacy. Stunts practicality grounded fantasy, plot's revenge arc delivered payoffs, emotional core resonated universally. Furious 7, an in-depth look at production, release, and reception. Production development and pre-production. The journey toward creating Furious 7 began long before cameras started rolling, with the first public discussions about a 7th installment emerging in February 2012. Dwayne Johnson, who had become a key member of the franchise ensemble, confirmed during an interview that production on the film would follow the completion of Fast Furious 6. The studio had initially considered filming 2 sequels back-to-back but ultimately abandoned this approach due to logistical challenges that proved too complex to manage effectively. Universal Pictures officially greenlit the project as a direct sequel to Fast Furious 6, bringing back screenwriter Chris Morgan for his 5th script in the series. Morgan's consistent involvement had become a hallmark of the franchise's continuity, and his return signaled the studio's commitment to maintaining the signature blend of high-stakes international action and themes centered on loyalty and family that had resonated so strongly with audiences worldwide. The directorial transition proved to be one of the most significant creative decisions in the film's early development phase. Justin Lin, who had successfully helmed the previous 4 installments in the franchise, was initially attached to direct Furious 7. His departure from the series in April 2013 came as a surprise to many observers. Lin cited scheduling conflicts as the primary reason for his exit, particularly his commitment to Star Trek Beyond. The compressed timeline Universal wanted for Furious 7's production would have required Lin to begin pre-production on the sequel while simultaneously completing post-production work on Fast Furious 6. Lin felt this overlap would compromise the quality of the final product, a concern that demonstrated his dedication to maintaining the franchise's standards. Universal Studios pursued an accelerated development schedule, Eager to capitalize on the franchise's momentum and push for a summer 2014 release date. This urgency stemmed partly from competitive pressures, as the studio had fewer reliable franchises compared to its competitors and needed to maintain a strong presence in the blockbuster marketplace. However, subsequent interviews with Lin suggested that the sixth film had always been intended as his final installment with the franchise, indicating that his departure may have been more planned than the scheduling conflict narrative initially implied. With Lin's exit confirmed, Universal moved quickly to find a replacement director. The studio compiled a short list of potential filmmakers that included Jeff Wadlow, known for his work on action films, Baltazar Kerr, who had directed the thriller Contraband, and Harold Swart, whose credits included the Karate Kid remake. Each brought different strengths and perspectives to the table, but it was James Wan who ultimately emerged as Universal's choice. The selection of James Wan in April 2013 represented a bold and somewhat unexpected decision. Wan had built his reputation primarily in the horror genre, having created the Saw franchise and directed successful films like Insidious and The Conjuring. His appointment to helm a massive action blockbuster marked a significant departure from his usual territory. The announcement generated mixed reactions, with some questioning whether a horror director could successfully handle the scale and spectacle required for a Fast Furious film. However, Wan's proven ability to create tension, craft memorable set pieces, and work effectively within budget constraints made him an intriguing candidate. Wan faced unique challenges in taking over the franchise. He described his situation with vivid analogies, comparing his arrival to being invited to a Thanksgiving dinner where the entire family was already at the table, carving the turkey, and he walked in awkwardly to take his seat. He also likened the experience to playing another person's saved game, where the characters, world, and story had been established, and he needed to pick up where others had left off. This self-awareness about his position demonstrated both humility and understanding of the franchise's established dynamics. The timing of Wan's hiring proved fortuitous in one respect. He came aboard early enough that the script existed only as a treatment rather than a finished screenplay. This malleable state of the material allowed Wan to get his hands dirty immediately in designing the major action sequences, which would become the film's signature moments. He couldn't even finish post-production on Insidious, Chapter 2, leaving that task to his editor so he could fully commit to Furious 7's pre-production phase. The pre-production process for Wan involved significant adaptation of his working methods. He was accustomed to discovering creative solutions on set, improvising with actors and camera operators to find the most effective ways to capture scenes. However, the sheer scale of Furious 7 made that approach impractical. With multiple departments requiring coordination and clear direction, storyboarding became essential. Wan found that storyboards served as the Bible for the production, providing a visual roadmap that every department could reference and work from collaboratively. Following the storyboard phase, the production moved into pre-visualization, a process that was entirely new to Wan. During pre-vis, the storyboards were uploaded into computers, allowing the director to figure out camera angles and composite footage as if it had already been shot. This technical planning stage proved invaluable for a production of this magnitude, enabling the team to identify potential problems and refine sequences before committing to expensive physical production. Casting confirmations came together throughout April 2013. With Vin Diesel and Paul Walker officially signed to reprise their iconic roles as Dominic Toretto and Brian O'Connor. The ensemble cast would expand to include returning favorites and new additions, creating one of the most star-studded lineups in the franchise's history. Dwayne Johnson's return as Luke Hobbs was confirmed despite his initial concerns about scheduling conflicts with Hercules. Because Furious 7's production would commence in September rather than the summer, Johnson was able to complete Hercules in time to participate in the filming. The casting of Jason Statham as Deckard Shaw, the primary antagonist seeking revenge for his brother Owen Shaw's fate in the previous film, added a formidable presence to the franchise. Statham's background in action films and martial arts made him an ideal adversary for Diesel's character. Kurt Russell joined the cast as a mysterious government operative known as Mr. Nobody, bringing gravitas and star power to the production. The addition of Natalie Emmanuel, Tony Jay, Enjamin Hounsah further diversified and strengthened the ensemble. The pre-production phase also involved extensive location scouting and planning for the film's global scope. The production team identified Atlanta as the primary filming base, with the Atlanta Media Campus Studios in Norcross, Gwinnett County, serving as the production headquarters. Additional locations were selected to showcase the franchise's international appeal, including Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates, various sites in Colorado's Rocky Mountains, and Los Angeles. The decision to film in Abu Dhabi rather than the initially considered Dubai was influenced by the United Arab Emirates' attractive 30% rebate scheme, which provided significant financial incentives for the production. Filming principal photography commenced in early September 2013, marking the beginning of what would become one of the most challenging and emotionally complex productions in Hollywood history. The film's ambitious shooting schedule involved multiple units working simultaneously across different locations, coordinating massive stunt sequences, and managing an ensemble cast whose schedules needed careful alignment. Atlanta served as the production's nerve center, with the Atlanta Media Campus Studios providing the infrastructure and facilities needed for such a large-scale operation. The city had been aggressively courting film productions through tax incentives and rebate programs, successfully positioning itself as a major alternative to traditional Hollywood production centers. The Furious 7 production benefited from these programs while also contributing significantly to Atlanta's growing reputation as a filmmaking destination. The city had already been hosting major franchises like The Hunger Games, and Furious 7 added to its portfolio of high-profile projects. The production issued casting calls in Atlanta for various supporting roles and extras, generating excitement in the local community. On September 16, filming took place at an Atlanta elementary school, featuring Paul Walker and the Kemsey twins, who portrayed his young son Jack in the film. This scene would later take on additional poignancy given the tragic events that would unfold in November. Dom Toretto's iconic home remained faithful to its roots, with the production filming at the actual house located at 722 East Kensington Road in Echo Park, Los Angeles. This location had appeared in previous films, and maintaining that continuity was important to the franchise's sense of authenticity. While the script called for the house to be destroyed by an explosion, the production relied entirely on CGI for this destruction, leaving the physical structure intact. Colorado provided the backdrop for some of the film's most spectacular and dangerous sequences. The production closed Pikes Peak Highway to film driving sequences that would form part of the mountain chase involving a bus teetering on a cliff edge. The frantic chase along treacherously winding mountain roads, where the team attempts to rescue the hacker Ramsey from an armored convoy, utilized locations on Highway 50 at Pikes Peak and around Monarch Pass in the Rocky Mountains, approximately 70 miles west of Colorado Springs. These sequences were carefully coordinated between the main unit and second unit teams, with the principal actors filming their portions on stages back in Atlanta while stunt drivers handled the dangerous mountain driving. The bus sequence exemplified the production's commitment to practical effects wherever possible. The iconic moment where a bus teeters on the edge of a cliff before plummeting into a quarry was achieved through a combination of practical stunts and careful planning. The entire sequence, including Brian's desperate run along the bus roof, Letty's car spinning perilously close to the drop, and the bus's catastrophic fall, was filmed in a quarry at the end of Reeves Parkway and Drum Creek Parkway, off Rock Quarry Road, in Stockbridge, southeast of Atlanta. More than 230 cars were involved in the production overall, with many destined for destruction. The vehicles written off in crashes and stunts were subsequently crushed to prevent the film company from potential legal liability if a pre-loved stunt car were sold and involved in accidents. The production's most ambitious international filming took place in Abu Dhabi, where the team captured the film's Middle Eastern sequences. Abu Dhabi's emergence as a filming location reflected a broader trend of exotic destinations providing financial incentives in exchange for the tourism and promotional benefits of appearing in major Hollywood productions. The production took full advantage of Abu Dhabi's stunning modern architecture and luxurious amenities. The team based themselves at the Emirates Palace Hotel, a massive 5-star resort located on West Cornish Road along the beachfront. This opulent location provided both a filming site and accommodations for the production. The hotel's grandeur perfectly suited the film's increasingly upscale aesthetic, moving far beyond the street racing routes of the original film. The nearby Etihad Towers, a 5-building complex that defines much of Abu Dhabi's skyline, served as the location for one of the film's most memorable sequences. In the scene, the team must steal a sophisticated tracking device called God's Eye from a Leighton Hypersport supercar stored in a penthouse. The subsequent chase sequence involves the car crashing through multiple towers, creating one of the film's signature "how did they do that?" moments. Tokyo made a brief but important appearance in the film, with footage of the famous Shibuya crossing establishing the location where Han meets his fate at the hands of Deckard Shaw. This scene connected Furious 7 directly to the Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift, weaving together the franchise's complex timeline. The production employed multiple veteran stunt coordinators to handle the film's elaborate action sequences. Spiro Razzado's returned to serve as stunt coordinator and second unit director, having previously performed these duties for Fast 5 and Fast Furious 6. His experience with the franchise made him invaluable in maintaining the series' signature action style while pushing boundaries. Jack Gill, who had also worked on the previous 2 films, joined Razzado's in these duties. Additionally, Joel Kramer, who had previously directed second unit for James Wan on The Conjuring and Death Sentence, brought his collaborative relationship with the director to Furious 7. The film's most technically challenging sequence involved dropping cars from an airplane mid-flight. This unprecedented stunt required meticulous planning and execution. The vehicles were suspended several feet above the ground on pulleys during the touchdown portions of the sequence, allowing them to race their engines and hit the ground running at full speed. The production combined practical effects with CGI enhancements to create the illusion of cars parachuting from the sky, pushing the franchise's already stretched relationship with physics to new extremes. The face-to-face combat sequences received particular attention, with the production bringing in specialized fight choreographers to create memorable brawls. The office fight between Deckard Shaw and Luke Hobbs showcased both actors' physicality, with visual effects house Rodeo FX adding set extensions, flying papers, fire, smoke, and explosions to enhance the chaos. A CG double for Dwayne Johnson was created for the sequence where his character falls from a window, demonstrating the seamless integration of practical and digital effects. On November 30, 2013, the production faced a tragedy that would forever change the film and the franchise. Paul Walker died in a single-vehicle car crash in Santa Clarita, California, when the Porsche Carrera GT in which he was a passenger, driven by his friend Roger Rodas, lost control and crashed. Walker was 40 years old. He had been attending a charity event for his organization Reach Out Worldwide when the accident occurred. The news sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry and devastated fans worldwide. At the time of his death, Walker had completed approximately half of his scenes for Furious 7. Production was immediately and indefinitely suspended on December 1, 2013, as the cast, crew, and studio grappled with the loss. Director James Wan and Universal executives held emergency conference calls to determine how to proceed in a manner that would respect Walker's memory while also considering the substantial investment in the film and the livelihoods of hundreds of crew members. The suspension lasted several months as the production team, studio executives, and Walker's family discussed options. Some consideration was given to shelving the project entirely, but ultimately the decision was made to continue production as a tribute to Walker. The actors' brothers, Caleb Walker and Cody Walker, agreed to stand in for Paul to help complete his remaining scenes, a decision that demonstrated remarkable courage and generosity during an impossibly difficult time. Screenwriter Chris Morgan undertook the delicate task of revising the script to both complete Walker's character arc and provide a meaningful farewell to Brian O'Connor that would honor Paul Walker's contribution to the franchise. The new ending would focus on Brian retiring from the dangerous life to be with his wife Mia and their children, allowing the character to ride off into a peaceful sunset rather than being killed off. Production resumed in April 2014, with filming continuing through July. The revised shooting schedule required extensive coordination to capture the scenes that would incorporate Walker's brothers as body doubles. Caleb and Cody Walker worked closely with the production team, providing not only their physical presence but also voiceover work for Brian O'Connor's dialogue. The brothers' dedication to helping complete their brother's final film became an integral part of the production's emotional journey. Jordana Brewster, who played Mia Toretto, Brian's wife, faced particularly challenging circumstances. Her lead role in the television series Dallas meant she couldn't participate in filming until the very end of production. By that time, Paul Walker had already passed away, requiring Brewster to perform intimate scenes with either Caleb or Cody serving as body doubles or with Paul's image inserted via computer graphics. Brewster later spoke about how emotionally difficult these scenes were, particularly given that most of her character's scenes involved interactions with Brian. The production maintained strict security around the revised ending and the methods being used to complete Walker's performance. The cast and crew were determined to honor his memory with a tribute that would resonate with fans while maintaining the quality and integrity of the film. Additional filming took place in Los Angeles, where the production captured car chases through downtown streets and other iconic Southern California locations. The film's climax, set in Los Angeles, involved elaborate street racing sequences and a confrontation between Dominic and Deckard that would test the limits of both characters and the laws of physics. When principal photography finally wrapped in July 2014, the production had spent nearly a year from its initial start date, with a 4-month suspension that had tested everyone's resilience and determination. The emotional weight of completing the film without Paul Walker hung over every decision, but the cast and crew remained committed to creating something that would make him proud. Post-production. The post-production phase of Furious 7 became one of the most technically complex and emotionally charged periods in recent film history. The primary challenge involved completing Paul Walker's performance using a combination of archival footage, body doubles, and cutting-edge visual effects technology. The task fell primarily to Weta Digital, the renowned visual effects company based in New Zealand that had previously created groundbreaking effects for franchises like The Lord of the Rings and Planet of the Apes. Weta Digital's assignment required producing approximately 350 shots featuring Paul Walker's character, Brian O'Connor. Of these, roughly 90 shots utilized archival footage and outtakes from earlier Fast Furious films. The visual effects team carefully searched through footage from all of Walker's previous appearances in the franchise, identifying shots that could be repurposed, relit, and composited into new scenes. This process involved meticulous attention to matching lighting conditions, camera angles, and continuity to ensure seamless integration. The remaining 260 shots required creating a digital version of Paul Walker's face. This process began with extensive scanning of Caleb and Cody Walker to use them as physical references. The brothers performed scenes in character as Brian O'Connor, with their facial features then replaced with CGI versions of Paul's face in post-production. Weta VFX supervisor Joe Lettery explained that the brothers were scanned to establish a baseline, but ultimately the production relied more heavily on older footage of Paul as reference material. Lettery noted that while Caleb and Cody were remarkably close to their brother in style and mannerisms, they simply weren't Paul when Paul played his character. The nuances of his specific performance style, facial expressions, and delivery required referencing his actual performances. Creating convincing digital humans represents one of the most challenging tasks in visual effects, with a phenomenon known as the uncanny valley posing a constant threat. This concept describes the unsettling feeling viewers experience when a digital human looks almost but not quite real. Lettery and his team had to be extraordinarily careful to avoid this effect, ensuring that every detail of Walker's digital face, from skin texture to eye movement to the subtle micro-expressions that convey emotion, felt authentic and natural. The dialogue presented another significant challenge. Many of the shots required Brian O'Connor to speak, but the production couldn't bring Walker into a recording booth. Sound editors had to piece together existing dialogue recordings from Walker's previous work, carefully assembling syllables and words to create new lines. In some cases, Caleb and Cody provided voiceover that was then processed to more closely match Paul's vocal characteristics. The result required seamless blending of techniques to avoid calling attention to itself. Director James Wan made a conscious decision not to reveal which shots featured the real Paul Walker and which used the digital reconstruction or his brothers as doubles. In interviews, he emphasized the importance of audiences experiencing the film without fixating on trying to determine which was which. The goal was for viewers to simply watch the movie, be caught up in the emotion and story, and accept Brian O'Connor's presence without constantly questioning its authenticity. The final scene of the film received particular attention in post-production. The sequence shows Brian playing with Mia and their son on a beach, intercut with the family driving away. Dom watches them, then gets in his car to leave without saying goodbye. Brian follows in his car, eventually pulling alongside Dom at a crossroads. The two men share one final look before their roads diverge, with Brian taking a different path that leads him away toward his new life. This poignant farewell was crafted using all the techniques developed during post-production, combining real footage, CGI, and performances from Caleb and Cody to create an emotionally resonant tribute. Beyond the Walker-related effects work, post-production involved extensive visual effects for the film's action sequences. Rodeo FX, led by visual effects supervisor Laron Spilmaker, handled significant portions of the work, particularly the office fight between Jason Statham and Dwayne Johnson. The studio added set extensions, CG elements like flying papers, fire, smoke, and explosions, and created CG doubles for the actors during dangerous portions of the sequence. The collision sequence between Vin Diesel and Jason launched a creative marketing campaign titled 7 Seconds of 7, releasing 7-second behind-the-scenes videos that teased the film's massive scope and emotional weight without revealing too much about the plot or how the production had handled Walker's scenes. The release date was initially rescheduled to April 10, 2015. Providing the post-production team with the necessary time to complete the extensive visual effects work. However, in an interesting strategic move, Universal announced that the film's release would be moved forward 1 week to April 3, 2015. This decision positioned Furious 7 during the Easter weekend, traditionally a lucrative period for family-oriented entertainment but less commonly associated with action blockbusters. The move demonstrated the studio's confidence in the film's broad appeal and its calculation that audiences would flock to theaters regardless of the specific weekend. The premiere of Furious 7 took place at the TCL Chinese Theater in Los Angeles on April 1, 2015. The event brought together the cast, crew, and industry figures in a celebration tinged with bittersweet emotion. The absence of Paul Walker cast a shadow over the proceedings, but the premiere also served as a memorial to his contributions to the franchise and his impact on everyone involved. Vin Diesel delivered an emotional speech honoring his friend and co-star, setting the tone for how the film would be received as both entertainment and tribute. Universal executed a massive global rollout for Furious 7, understanding that the franchise's strength lay in its international appeal. The film opened on April 1, 2015, in 12 countries, earning $16.9 million, including previews from 22 countries, in its first day. The studio expanded the release to 33 more countries on April 2, bringing the total to 45 countries, where the film earned $43 million from 8,407 screens. This marked Universal Pictures International's highest-grossing Thursday ever at that point. The expansion continued on April 3, with 20 additional countries joining the release, bringing the total to 63 territories. The film earned $59.2 million from 9,935 screens on that Friday, leading to a 3-day international total of $120.6 million. By April 5, Furious 7 had achieved a 4-day opening weekend total of $250.4 million internationally from 10,683 screens in 64 countries, representing the fourth highest international opening ever and securing first place at the box office in every single market where it opened. The domestic release in the United States and Canada proved equally spectacular. Predictions for the opening weekend were continuously revised upwards as tracking data suggested enormous interest. Estimates started at home media. The home media release of Furious 7 followed a carefully planned strategy designed to maximize revenue while providing fans with comprehensive supplemental content that enhanced their understanding and appreciation of the film. Universal Home Entertainment announced the film's availability across multiple formats and platforms, ensuring accessibility for audiences with different viewing preferences and technical capabilities. The film was released on digital HD platforms on June 23, 2015, approximately 2.5 months after its theatrical premiere. This digital release included platforms such as iTunes, Amazon Video, Google Play, and Vudu, providing consumers with multiple purchasing options. The digital release allowed viewers to own the film and watch it across various devices including smartphones, tablets, computers, and smart TVs. The pricing structure typically included options to purchase in standard definition or high definition, with premium pricing for HDX, high definition extra, versions on platforms like Vudu. The physical media release followed on September 15, 2015, arriving in Blu-ray, DVD, and Blu-ray 3D formats. This multi-format approach recognized that consumers maintain diverse preferences for physical media, with some still utilizing DVD players while others had invested in Blu-ray or 3D capable equipment. The Blu-ray editions offered superior picture and sound quality compared to DVD, while the 3D version provided the immersive experience for home viewers with 3D capable televisions and players. Universal produced multiple editions of the physical release to appeal to different consumer segments and maximize revenue. A standard edition included the film with basic supplemental features. An extended edition offered additional footage not seen in theaters, providing fans with more content and creating incentive for purchase even among those who had seen the film multiple times theatrically. A Target exclusive edition included bonus content available only through that retailer, while Best Buy offered its own exclusive version with different supplemental materials or packaging. The most elaborate release was a limited edition collector's set that packaged Furious 7 with premium extras, collectible packaging, and potentially exclusive physical items such as photos, posters, or replica props. These premium editions targeted the franchise's most dedicated fans who valued collectible items and were willing to pay premium prices for special packaging and exclusive content. The supplemental features included on the Blu-ray editions provided extensive behind-the-scenes access to the production. A making-of documentary explored the film's creation, from pre-production planning through post-production challenges. Multiple featurettes focused on specific aspects of production, including the stunts, visual effects, international locations, and vehicle selection. These featurettes typically ran between 10 and 20 minutes each, providing substantive content without overwhelming casual viewers. The treatment of Paul Walker's death in the production's continuation received sensitive handling in the supplemental materials. A special featurette titled The Cars of Furious 7 or a similar innocuous name would sometimes include reflections from cast and crew about Walker's passion for cars and his contributions to the franchise. A separate tribute piece allowed cast members, director James Wan, and producer Neil H. Moritz to share memories and express their feelings about Walker's impact on their lives and the series. Deleted scenes provided additional context for character moments and plot points that were trimmed during editing. These scenes typically included optional director commentary explaining why the scenes were removed and how the editing process shaped the final cut. The director's commentary track, if included, allowed James Wan to discuss his creative decisions, the challenges of taking over the franchise, and his approach to honoring Paul Walker's memory while delivering the action spectacle fans expected. A gag reel showcasing humorous outtakes and behind-the-scenes moments lightened the emotional weight of the release, reminding viewers that despite the tragedy that marked the production, the cast and crew had shared many joyful moments during filming. These outtakes humanized the performers and provided glimpses of the camaraderie that had developed among the ensemble cast over multiple films. The audio options on the Blu-ray editions included the film's original theatrical sound mix and DTS HD master audio or similar high-quality formats, providing viewers with theatrical quality sound in their home environments. Multiple language tracks accommodated international audiences, while subtitle options in numerous languages expanded accessibility. The 4K Ultra HD release, which followed later as 4K technology became more prevalent in home entertainment, offered further enhanced picture quality with higher resolution, expanded color range through high dynamic range, HDR, technology, and improved sound through formats like Dolby Atmos. This release targeted early adopters of 4K technology and enthusiasts seeking the highest possible home viewing quality. Digital releases through various streaming platforms followed different schedules depending on licensing agreements. The film became available for rental through video-on-demand services approximately concurrent with the physical media release, allowing viewers to pay a one-time fee to watch the film without purchasing it outright. Subscription streaming services like Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, and others secured rights to include Furious 7 in their catalogs, though the timing and duration of these availabilities varied based on complex licensing agreements between Universal and the streaming platforms. The economic performance of the home media release proved substantial, though specific revenue figures were not always publicly disclosed. Industry tracking suggested that Furious 7 topped home video sales charts for multiple weeks following its release, with particularly strong Blu-ray sales relative to DVD, reflecting the ongoing transition in consumer preferences toward high-definition formats. The film's availability on home media allowed for continued appreciation of the Paul Walker tribute. Many viewers reported that watching the film at home, particularly the final scene set to "See You Again," remained emotionally powerful even on repeated viewings. The ability to pause, rewind, and watch specific scenes multiple times gave audiences greater opportunity to appreciate the technical achievements involved in completing Walker's performance posthumously. The supplemental features documenting the visual effects process provided transparency about how the filmmakers completed Walker's scenes. This educational content helped audiences understand the enormous technical challenge the production faced and the respectful manner in which Weta Digital and the production team approached the task. Rather than feeling manipulated or deceived, many viewers expressed appreciation for the artistry and care evident in every frame featuring Brian O'Connor. Special promotional tie-ins accompanied the home media release. Retailers sometimes bundled the film with related merchandise such as die-cast vehicles from the movie, posters, or other collectibles. These bundles created additional value propositions for consumers and helped move inventory through retail channels. Universal also coordinated with automotive partners to create cross-promotional opportunities that connected the film's release with real-world car culture. The home media release extended the film's cultural impact and revenue generation well beyond its theatrical run, providing Universal with a substantial additional revenue stream. The various formats, editions, and platforms ensured that virtually any interested viewer could access the film in a format suited to their preferences and budget. The comprehensive supplemental features rewarded dedicated fans while also serving to preserve the story of the film's production for future audiences interested in film history and the Fast Furious franchise's evolution. Reception. Box office. Furious 7 achieved box office performance that exceeded even the most optimistic predictions, becoming a genuine global phenomenon that demonstrated the franchise's incredible worldwide appeal. The film's financial success reflected not only the strength of the Fast Furious brand but also the emotional connection audiences felt to Paul Walker and their desire to honor his memory by supporting his final completed performance. The film opened in the United States and Canada on April 3, 2015. Earning $15.8 million from Thursday night preview screenings beginning at 7 p.m. This figure represented the ninth highest Thursday preview gross at that time and immediately signaled that the film would perform exceptionally well. The previews included IMAX screenings, with the IMAX-specific preview gross reaching $2.2 million, a record for the format for an April release. On its opening Friday, Furious 7 earned a massive $67.3 million domestically, including the Thursday previews. This represented the sixth highest Friday gross ever recorded and the highest April opening day in history by a substantial margin. The Saturday gross increased slightly to $68.2 million, demonstrating rare positive Friday to Saturday growth that indicated strong word-of-mouth and broad audience appeal beyond the core fan base that typically drives opening day numbers. The three-day opening weekend total reached $147.1 million domestically, with the four-day Easter weekend total climbing to $161 million. These figures shattered numerous records, including the highest April opening weekend, surpassing Captain America, the Winter Soldier's previous record by nearly $50 million. The opening also represented the biggest opening of 2015 at that time and the 10th highest opening weekend of all time in domestic markets. The demographic breakdown of the opening weekend audience revealed the film's broad appeal across age groups, genders, and ethnicities. Males represented approximately 58% of the audience, with females accounting for 42%. Demonstrating better gender balance than typical action films achieve. The racial diversity of the audience mirrored the diverse cast, with Caucasian viewers accounting for 40%, Hispanic 25%, African American 20%, and Asian, other 15%. Age demographics showed strong representation across all segments. Audiences under 25 years old represented approximately 49% of viewers, while those 25 and older accounted for 51%. This split demonstrated that the franchise successfully attracted younger viewers who may have been children when the first film was released while retaining the older fans who had grown up with the series. The Paul Walker tribute drew viewers across generational lines, with many families attending together to experience the emotional farewell. The IMAX contribution to domestic box office proved substantial, with IMAX screens generating approximately $13.1 million during the opening weekend from 365 theaters. This per-screen average significantly exceeded that of standard screens, validating the decision to create IMAX presentations and dedicate premium screens to the film. The 3D presentations accounted for approximately 23% of the domestic opening weekend gross, a respectable though not dominant percentage that reflected North American audiences' declining enthusiasm for 3D presentations compared to international markets. The international box office performance proved even more spectacular than the domestic results. As previously noted, the film earned $250.4 million during its opening four-day weekend internationally, bringing its worldwide opening total to $411.4 million. This represented the fifth highest worldwide opening weekend ever at that time, trailing only behind Marvel's The Avengers, Age of Ultron, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows A Part 2, and Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. China emerged as the film's strongest international market, with Furious 7 earning a stunning $68.6 million during its opening day in China on April 12, 2015. This single-day total represented the biggest opening day ever in China at that time for any film. The Sunday total in China reached $18.9 million, bringing the three-day opening weekend to $180 million. This opening weekend made Furious 7 the highest-grossing opening in Chinese box office history, surpassing Transformers: Age of Extinction. The Chinese box office continued delivering extraordinary numbers throughout the film's run. Furious 7 ultimately grossed $390.87 million in China, making it the highest-grossing film ever released in the country at that time, surpassing Avatar's $202.78 million total that had stood since 2010. The film's success in China reflected the country's rapidly growing middle class, expanding cinema infrastructure, and increasing appetite for Hollywood blockbusters, particularly those featuring diverse casts and international settings that Chinese audiences found appealing. Other international markets contributed significantly to the overall gross. The United Kingdom and Ireland generated approximately $38 million during the opening weekend. Australia delivered strong results with a $14.9 million opening weekend. Germany, France, Brazil, Mexico, and South Korea all registered opening weekends exceeding $10 million. The film reached number 1 at the box office in virtually every market where it opened, demonstrating truly global appeal. The week-to-week holds in domestic markets proved remarkably strong for a film with such a massive opening. In its second weekend, Furious 7 earned $60.6 million, representing a decline of just 59% from the opening weekend. For a film with such a front-loaded opening driven by intense anticipation, this hold exceeded expectations and indicated that positive word of mouth was bringing new audiences to theaters. The second weekend total represented the highest second weekend ever for a film at that time. The third weekend saw the film earn $29.2 million domestically, a decline of 52% from the second weekend. This continued pattern of strongholds allowed the film to maintain its position atop the domestic box office for its first 3 weekends, fending off competition from new releases like The Longest Ride and Unfriended. The film's ability to maintain drawing power week after week reflected its status as a cultural event rather than merely another action film. International markets demonstrated similar staying power. The film continued earning substantial sums in its second, third, and fourth weeks of release across various territories, with many markets showing holds that exceeded typical patterns for action blockbusters. The emotional component of the film, particularly the tribute to Paul Walker, drove repeat viewings and sustained interest well beyond the opening weekend rush. By the end of its theatrical run, Furious 7 had accumulated a domestic gross of $353.0 million, making it the 9th highest grossing film domestically at that time. The international gross reached an extraordinary $1.163 billion, bringing the worldwide total to $1.516 billion. These figures represented multiple significant milestones and records. Furious 7 became the highest grossing film of 2015 worldwide, surpassing Avengers: Age of Ultron despite the Marvel film having opened earlier and having access to the lucrative early summer season. The achievement demonstrated that the Fast Furious franchise had reached a level of global popularity that could compete with established superhero franchises. The film became the third highest grossing film worldwide at that time, trailing only Avatar and Titanic, both directed by James Cameron. This placement put Furious 7 among the most commercially successful films in cinema history, a remarkable achievement for a franchise that had begun as a relatively modest street racing film 14 years earlier. Furious 7 became the first film distributed by Universal Pictures to gross over $1 billion worldwide, let alone exceed $1.5 billion. This milestone represented a historic achievement for the studio, which had never previously reached that level with any release. The success transformed Universal's financial outlook and demonstrated the value of investing in and nurturing franchises over multiple installments. The film held the record as the highest grossing film of 2015 in numerous individual territories, including the United States, United Kingdom, Australia, Brazil, Mexico, India, and many others. The breadth of this success across diverse markets with different cultural contexts underscored the franchise's universal appeal. The per-screen averages during the opening weekend indicated intense demand, with many theaters selling out shows and adding additional screenings to accommodate audiences. Premium format screenings, including IMAX, 3D, and D-Box motion seats, commanded higher ticket prices that contributed to the overall gross while providing audiences with enhanced viewing experiences. The success of Furious 7 had significant implications for the industry. It demonstrated that franchise films with diverse casts could achieve massive global success, potentially influencing future casting and production decisions across Hollywood. The film's performance in China specifically illustrated the growing importance of the Chinese market for Hollywood studios, with some films earning more in China than in North America. Universal's marketing expenditure for the film, while substantial, proved to be an excellent investment given the financial returns. Estimates placed the worldwide marketing spend at approximately $200 million, bringing the total cost including production to somewhere in the range of $400 to $450 million, with theatrical grosses exceeding $1.5 billion. Plus subsequent home media and television licensing revenue, the film generated substantial profit for the studio. The ancillary revenue streams added significantly to the overall financial performance. Home media sales and rentals, television broadcast rights, and streaming licensing deals all contributed additional revenue beyond the theatrical gross. Merchandise sales, including die-cast vehicles, apparel, and other products, provided another revenue stream. though these figures were not typically disclosed publicly. The financial success enabled Universal to greenlight additional installments in the franchise with larger budgets and greater creative ambition. The studio announced plans for 3 more films in the main series, expanding what had already become one of the most successful franchises in film history. The success also led to discussions of spin-off films, eventually resulting in Hobbs Shaw, featuring Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham in a film separate from the main narrative. Critical response. The critical response to Furious 7 proved generally positive, with reviewers acknowledging both the film's spectacular action sequences and its emotional resonance. Critics approached the film understanding the unique circumstances of its production and the tribute it served to Paul Walker, factors that inevitably influenced their assessments. Rotten Tomatoes, the review aggregation website, reported that approximately 81% of 252 critics gave the film positive reviews, with an average rating of approximately 6.8 out of 10. The site's critical consensus read, "Serving up a fresh round of over-the-top thrills while adding unexpected dramatic heft, Furious 7 keeps the franchise moving in more ways than one." This consensus captured the dual nature of the film's achievement at delivering the action spectacle fans expected while also providing genuine emotional impact. Metacritic, which assigns a weighted average score based on reviews from mainstream critics, gave the film a score of 67 out of 100 based on 50 reviews, indicating generally favorable reviews. This score placed Furious 7 among the better reviewed entries in the franchise and suggested critics recognize the film's accomplishments despite the inherent challenges of the genre and production circumstances. CinemaScore, which surveys actual moviegoers on opening night, reported that audiences gave the film an A grade on an A+2F scale. This enthusiastic audience response indicated strong satisfaction levels among those who chose to see the film theatrically, validating the film's appeal beyond critical assessment. Many critics praised James Wan's direction, particularly his handling of the action sequences. Reviewers noted that Wan brought a distinctive visual style to the franchise, with dynamic camera movements, creative angles, and choreography that distinguished his work from Justin Lin's previous entries. The Abu Dhabi sequence, with the light hypersport crashing through the Etihad Towers, received particular acclaim for its audacious spectacle and visual inventiveness. The fight choreography earned widespread praise, with the confrontation between Jason Statham and Dwayne Johnson highlighted as a particular standout. Critics appreciated the physicality both actors brought to their roles and the creative use of the office environment during their brawl. The extended fight between Dominic Toretto and Deckard Shaw in an abandoned parking structure also received positive notices for its brutal intensity and satisfying conclusion to their rivalry. Some critics questioned the film's relationship with physics, noting that the action sequences stretched credibility to breaking points. Cars surviving impossible drops, characters walking away from crashes that should have been fatal, and the general laws of motion being repeatedly violated provided fodder for reviewers who felt the franchise had lost touch with any semblance of realism. However, many of these same critics acknowledged that the unrealistic action had become part of the franchise's charm and that audiences didn't attend these films expecting documentary realism. The script received mixed assessments. Some reviewers felt that Chris Morgan's screenplay successfully balanced the ensemble cast, giving most major characters meaningful moments and story arcs. Others criticized the plot as convoluted and overstuffed, with the God's Eye MacGuffin feeling like a contrived excuse to string together action set pieces. The dialogue, particularly the frequent invocations of family and loyalty, struck some critics as heavy-handed, though others found these themes appropriately consistent with the franchise's established values. The performances generally received positive notices, with critics praising the chemistry among the ensemble cast. Vin Diesel's commitment to the material and his obvious emotional investment in honoring Paul Walker came through in his performance. Dwayne Johnson, despite relatively limited screen time due to his character's early injury, made a strong impression in his scenes. Jason Statham brought menacing credibility to his villain role, creating a genuinely threatening antagonist. Michelle Rodriguez, Jordana Brewster, Ludacris, Tyrese Gibson, and the other ensemble members received acknowledgement for their continued character development and screen presence. Paul Walker's performance received particularly sensitive treatment from critics. Most reviewers noted the seamless integration of his scenes, with many unable to definitively identify which shots utilized CGI, body doubles, or archival footage versus his actual filmed performance. Critics acknowledged the extraordinary technical achievement this represented, while also praising the respectful manner in which the filmmakers handled Walker's final appearance in the franchise. The film's ending generated near universal acclaim from critics. Reviewers across the spectrum, including those who had reservations about other aspects of the film, acknowledged the emotional power of the final tribute sequence. The montage of clips showing Dom and Brian's friendship throughout the franchise, accompanied by "See You Again," was described as genuinely moving and appropriately reverential. The final scene of the two characters driving together before their roads diverged received particular praise for its understated yet profound symbolism. Several critics noted that the ending transcended the film itself, serving as a farewell not just to the character but to Paul Walker the person. This blending of fiction and reality created an unusual emotional experience in a genre typically focused on spectacle rather than sentiment. The effectiveness of this tribute elevated the film's overall reception, with even critics who might have otherwise been dismissive of the franchise acknowledging the sincerity and emotional authenticity of the conclusion. The diverse cast received positive commentary from critics who noted Hollywood's persistent issues with representation. The Fast Furious franchise had always featured multiracial casts and celebrated diversity as a core value, and Furious 7 continued this tradition. Critics appreciated that the franchise presented diversity as unremarkable and natural rather than making it a focal point or treating it as unusual. The international cast and settings also received notice as contributing to the franchise's global appeal. Some negative reviews cited franchise fatigue, arguing that the series had run its course and that even the Paul Walker tribute couldn't entirely justify another installment. These critics felt the action sequences, while spectacular, had become repetitive and that the franchise's increasing emphasis on spectacle over character development represented diminishing returns. The unrealistic action, which some critics embraced as part of the franchise's charm, struck these reviewers as absurd and off-putting. The film's length, at approximately 137 minutes, received mixed commentary. Some critics felt the runtime was appropriate given the scope of the story and the need to properly service the large ensemble cast. Others felt the film could have been trimmed, particularly in the middle section, to maintain better pacing and momentum. The perception of pacing largely seemed to depend on individual tolerance for the franchise's particular style and rhythm. The villain's motivation received some critical scrutiny, with reviewers noting that Deckard Shaw's quest for revenge, while establishing his ruthlessness, didn't provide the same thematic depth as some previous franchise antagonists. However, Jason Statham's charismatic performance compensated for any script deficiencies in this regard, making Shaw a memorable adversary despite the relatively straightforward revenge premise. The technical craftsmanship of the film earned widespread recognition. Critics praised the cinematography, production design, and editing, all of which contributed to the film's polished, expensive appearance. The visual effects work, particularly the completion of Paul Walker's performance, received acknowledgement for its quality and sensitivity. The sound design and musical score were noted as effectively supporting the action and emotional moments without overwhelming them. Several critics placed Furious 7 in the context of the franchise's evolution, noting how far the series had come from its street racing origins. Some viewed this evolution positively, appreciating that the franchise had found ways to reinvent itself and avoid stagnation. Others felt nostalgic for the simpler, more grounded approach of earlier films, suggesting that the franchise had lost some of its identity in its pursuit of ever greater spectacle. International critics largely echoed the sentiments of their North American counterparts, with the film receiving positive reviews across most major markets. Critics in China, where the film performed exceptionally well at the box office, praised the spectacular action and emotional storyline. European critics generally appreciated the film's entertainment value while some maintained skepticism about the franchise's artistic merits. The film's international success correlated with generally positive international critical reception, though as with domestic critics, Individual opinions varied widely. The awards recognition for Furious 7 focused primarily on technical categories and popular achievement. The film received various nominations from organizations that recognize action cinema, stunt work, and technical achievement. See You Again garnered nominations for Best Original Song from several organizations, including the Golden Globe nomination previously mentioned. The visual effects team received acknowledgement from industry organizations, though the film was not nominated for the Academy Award for Visual Effects, partly due to the competitive field that year. The long-term critical reassessment of Furious 7 has generally remained consistent with initial reviews. The film is widely regarded as one of the stronger entries in the franchise, with its combination of spectacular action and genuine emotion creating a memorable viewing experience. The Paul Walker tribute is consistently cited as one of the most effective and moving conclusions in action cinema, transcending the genre's typical limitations to create something with lasting emotional resonance. Critics have also noted Furious 7's role in solidifying the Fast Furious franchise as a genuine cultural phenomenon rather than merely a successful film series. The film's financial performance, critical reception, and emotional impact collectively elevated the franchise's status within popular culture, influencing subsequent action films and franchise installments across the industry. The film's legacy includes its influence on action filmmaking, particularly in demonstrating that diverse casts and international settings could drive massive global success. The emotional dimension added to the franchise with Furious 7 influenced subsequent installments, which have continued to balance spectacular action with themes of family, loyalty, and sacrifice. The technical achievement of completing Paul Walker's performance set precedents for how the industry might handle similar situations in the future, though everyone involved has expressed hope that such circumstances never arise again. Looking back from several years beyond its release, Furious 7 stands as a significant achievement in blockbuster filmmaking, a testament to perseverance through tragedy, and a fitting tribute to Paul Walker that honored his memory while celebrating his contributions to a franchise that meant so much to millions of fans worldwide. The film represents a unique convergence of spectacle and sentiment, entertainment and emotion, technical achievement and human connection, creating something that transcended its genre to become a cultural moment that resonated far beyond the typical boundaries of action cinema. A new director at the helm and the sudden death of leading man Paul Walker might have spelled doom for the Fast and the Furious franchise, but rather like one of its own seemingly indestructible muscle cars, Furious 7 has emerged miraculously unscathed. In taking over for longtime director Justin Lin, Parts 3 to 6, horror auteur James Wan, The Conjuring, ably steps up to the big action plate, orchestrating 2+ hours of increasingly outlandish vehicular and aerobatic mayhem that revs pulses and engines in roughly equal measure. Completed under what were surely challenging circumstances, but, mostly, seamless to behold, Furious 7 provides both a satisfying chapter in the movie's preeminent gearhead soap opera and a tactful, touching memorial to Walker, whose final screen appearance will help ensure that this already $2.3 billion series is 7 times lucky at the worldwide box office. When Walker died in a high-speed car crash in November 2013, he was only halfway through filming Furious 7, a process that was eventually completed using a combination of unseen Walker footage from previous films and new scenes shot using stand-ins, including Walker's 2 younger brothers, Caleb and Cody, who then had the late actor's face digitally grafted onto their bodies. Reportedly, this sent the film's already enormous $200 million budget spiraling toward $250 million, but to judge from the end product and its enthusiastic reception here at SXSW, it was time and money very well spent. Although there are moments, especially during a climactic foot and car chase on the streets of downtown Los Angeles, where Walker, or his avatar, is conspicuously filmed from behind or with his face obscured, for most of the time Walker is on screen, which is quite often. It's nigh impossible to tell whether he is fully real or partly virtual. We are not so far here from the once absurd suggestion that it might someday be possible to make a brand new movie starring Humphrey Bogart or Marilyn Monroe. But for now, there's Walker, and it is a constant pleasure to watch the excitingly physical actor he was once again hurl himself into the movie's complicated stunt sequences like a human cannonball. Although Walker could never have known this would be his final performance, it may be the ultimate compliment to say that he plays each moment as though it were his last. And, when the time does come for his Brian O'Connor to bid adieu, the movie arranges it in a way that feels fully earned and well within the boundaries of good taste. Up until then, it's more or less business as usual in Furious Land, with one badly banged and bruised bad guy from 2013's Furious 6, Luke Evans Owen Shaw, still clinging to life by a thread, a batter baddie, Jason Statham as Shaw's older brother, Deckard, waiting in the wings, and, for good measure, a terrorist mastermind, Jimon Hounsou, intent on what else? A world domination, owner of a scala that could rethaw the polarized caps, and one of the few actors who could plausibly take The Rock and or Vin Diesel in a fight. Statham gets a great entrance, putting baby bro out of his misery, along with an entire, heavily guarded London hospital, without breaking a sweat. But it's revenge that looms largest on Deckard's mind. First up, as teased at the end of Furious 6, a trip to Tokyo, where Deckard helps the vacationing Han, Sung Kang, to meet his maker, events that finally close the chronological gap between the third Fast film, 2006's Tokyo Drift, and parts 4 to 6, which effectively functioned as one long flashback. Then it's off to LA, where Deckard makes it clear that it's open season on Dominic Toretto, Diesel, and his entire crew. The screenplay is once again by Chris Morgan, who's written the last 4 films in the series. If Han's death, in a burning car, no less, casts a somewhat eerie pall over Furious 7, it's not the only thing that does. Walker/O'Connor is first seen revving the engine of a most atypical vehicle, a Chrysler minivan, with his infant son strapped into a car seat in the back, and one of the new film's running themes is that, while marriage and fatherhood may have domesticated Brian, he still pines for his old rebel outlaw days. He says he misses the bullets, notes wife Mia, Jordana Brewster, as if it were a perfectly normal sentiment. But how much longer can or should Brian continue to put himself in harm's way when he has a young family waiting for him at home? The arrival of Deckard momentarily makes that a moot point, as everyone, even still amnesiac Letty, Michelle Rodriguez, readies for battle. Then comes another new cast member, a silver-tongued government shadow man, Kurt Russell, who refers to himself as Mr. Nobody and tells Dom he can help him eliminate Shaw, provided Dom does something for him first. G-Man Russell needs help with the rescue of a kidnapped computer hacker, Ramsey, Natalie Emanuel, who's being held by Hounsou's Mozjikan somewhere in the Caucasus. Unspecified political concerns prevent the US from staging an official rescue mission. Ramsey has developed a software program, unsubtly named God's Eye, that can track anyone's movements at any point on the globe through any available camera or cell phone. In the wrong hands, it could be a disaster. Think Edward Snowden's worst nightmare, times infinity. Things manage to get even more complicated, perhaps a bit too much from there, in a story that hopscotches of Azerbaijan and Abu Dhabi before finally ending up back in LA. But then, the special appeal of the Fast movies has never lain in the what they do and when, but rather how they do it, as in, how do you manage to deposit a half-dozen high-test supercars on a remote stretch of winding Azerbaijani mountainside without raising too many eyebrows? Why, parachute them out of a cargo plane, of course a broken bar with the drivers already buckled in. Note that this is not the last time a car will glide balletically through the air in Furious 7, nor is it even the second to last time. When and veteran Furious stunt coordinator, second unit director Spiro Razzatos also stage a jaw-dropping literal cliffhanger involving an overturned bus sliding towards certain doom, and later, a ridiculous but highly entertaining car chase that begins inside one of Abu Dhabi's skyscraping Etihad towers and ends in a neighboring one, without ever touching the ground. Not all of the action quite lives up to those high standards, and none of it can quite surpass the sublime Fast 5 finale, in which 2 Dodge Chargers towed a massive bank vault through the streets of Rio de Janeiro. Wan, a master of old-school analog fights in his horror movies, favors a more frenetic shooting and editing style here, and gooses his set pieces with too much CGI. The movie is also, At 137 minutes, arguably too much of a good thing. Still, Furious 7 has few equals in the category of sevens, and outside of the James Bond franchise, which was up to Diamonds Are Forever at a comparable point in its lifespan, it's hard to think of another contemporary film series that has run this long while continuing to afford so much pleasure. Harder still to think of another mainstream Hollywood blockbuster, past or present, with this level of ethnic and socioeconomic diversity on display, just because that's who the characters are, and not because the filmmakers are trying to earn PC brownie points. It won't be the same going forward, one character says late in the film, and that's certainly true. But to judge from the evidence here, even a Walker-less Team Furious still has plenty of gas left in the tank. Also joining the cast for this latest outing, Thai martial arts superstar Tony Jaa, female UFC champ Ronda Rousey and, in a blink and you miss her cameo, Iggy Azalea. The film's full on-screen title reads Furious 7, although all posters and marketing materials bear the numeral 7. The presence of 2 credited cinematographers and 4 credited editors offers further evidence that the interrupted production took many hands on deck to properly salvage. Reviewed at SXSW Film Festival, Secret Screening, March 16, 2015. Rating, PG-13. Running time, 137 minutes. Production, a universal release and presentation in association with MRC and China Film Company of an original film, One Race Films production. Produced by Neil Moritz, Vin Diesel, Michael Fottrell. Executive producers, Samantha Vincent, Amanda Lewis, Chris Morgan. Co-producers, Adam McCarthy, Brandon Bertel. Crew, directed by James Wan. Screenplay, Chris Morgan, based on the characters created by Gary Scott Thompson. Camera, color, Arri Alexa HD, widescreen, Stephen F. Winden, Mark Spicer. Editors, Lee Folsom Boyd, Dylan Highsmith, Kirk Mori, Christian Wagner. Music, Brian Tyler. Production designer, Bill Brzezinski. Supervising art director, Deesma Murphy. Art directors, Jonathan Carlos, Alan Hook, Jay Pelizier. Set decorator, Danielle Berman. Costume designer, Sanja Milkovic. Hayes. Sound, Datasat/Dolby Digital, Whit Norris, Mark Weingarten. Sound designer, supervising sound editor, Peter Brown. Co-supervising sound editor, Joe Zuban. Re-recording mixers, John Taylor, Frank A. Montano. Visual effects supervisors, Michael J. Wassil, Kelvin McIlwain. Visual effects producer, Karen Murphy. Mundell. Visual effects, Digital Domain 3.0, Scanline VFX, MPC, Rodeo FX, Pixomonto, VFX, Cantina Creative, Lola VFX, Factory FX, Weta Workshop. Miniatures. Special effects supervisor, Joel Mitchell. Supervising stunt coordinator, Joel Kramer. Stunt coordinators, Oakley Lehman, Troy Robinson. Associate producer, F. Valentino Morales. Assistant director, Albert Cho. Second unit director, stunt coordinator, Spiro Razzatos. Second unit directors, Jack Gill, Joel Kramer. Second unit camera, Igor Meglik, Jacques Haitkin. Aerial camera, Steve Koster, Dylan Goss. Casting, Ann McCarthy, Kelly Roy. With, Vin Diesel, Paul Walker, Jason Statham, Michelle Rodriguez, Jordana Brewster, Tyrese Gibson, Chris Ludacris Bridges, Dwayne Johnson, Lucas Black, Kurt Russell, Natalie Emanuel, Elsa Pataky, Gal Gadot, John Bortherton, Luke Evans, Tony Jaa, Jimin Hounsou, Noel Guglielmi, Ali Fazl, Sung Kang, Ronda Rousey, Miller Kimsey, Charlie Kimsey, Eden Estrella, Gentry White, Iggy Azalea. A decade or so ago, a mate had The Fast the Furious on DVD and insisted we watch it. It turned out to be exactly what I predicted in all the worst ways. Refried action movie cliché tilde copyright S, macho bullshit, terrible dialogue and nonsensical set pieces built around an even less coherent plot. Years passed, sequels kept on coming and I successfully ignored them. Until Fast 5. Reviews and ecstatic reactions from people whose opinions I generally trust just kept on coming. So I caved in, watched it, loved it. Fast 5 took the refried action movie cliché tilde copyright S, macho bullshit, terrible dialogue and nonsensical set pieces built around an even less coherent plot, and it blew them all out to obscene proportions. This kind of self-aware, but not sarcastic approach, reinvented the franchise and took it to a whole new level of brilliant insanity. Fast Furious 6 upped the ante once again and was another brain-snapping, glorious mess of chaos, which is why I have been pretty excited to see what batshit craziness they have come up with for Fast Furious 7. Hobbs, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, is working late in the office at his job as some sort of government agent. He's paid a visit by Deckard Shaw, Jason Statham, that ends with a fist fight and explosion. Later, Dom, Vin Diesel, Brian, Paul Walker, and his wife, Jordana Brewster, narrowly escape an explosion at Brian's house from his hospital bed. Hobbs reveals Shaw's identity. He's the brother of the bad guy that Hobbs, Dom, Brian and their merry gang took out in the previous installment. Hellbent on revenge, Shaw represents your classic Gruber brothers situation, as personified by Hans and Simon in Die Hard and Die Hard, with a vengeance respectively. So now, wanting their own revenge for Shaw's attempts at revenge, the furious crew drive lots of cars fast, kit them out with silly gadgets, and drop awkward lines of terrible tough guy dialogue on the regular. I had little to no idea what was happening for the vast majority of Fast Furious 7. That's not to say that it's complicated or doesn't make sense. It's just that I don't care what's happening in a movie like this. The plot is so secondary and superfluous to the action. I'm happy to just assume there's a storyline and that it makes sense, because I just have no interest in paying attention to it. The Stath really is a perfect addition to this world. His Crank movies are the first time I remember being aware of this approach to over-the-top action, and loving it. So he slots into this world effortlessly, violently and with just the right amount of gravelly, almost whispered approach to every single line of dialogue. His addition is much like the movies in the series themselves. I'm sure they'll eventually reach a tipping point and crumble under the weight of their own excess. But for now, Fast Furious 7 is proof that when it comes to this particular franchise, more really is more. Furious 7 is the 7th entry in the highly successful series of the Fast and the Furious films that basically represent the equivalent of what they feature much of: street racing. Both street racing and these films are made up of speed, adrenaline, and a divergent lack of intelligence. Furious 7 is mostly on that level. But this time around, there's a sense of poignancy surrounding the film's fun measure, and it has to do with the untimely death of star Paul Walker. Walker died midway through filming, and because we're aware of that, that kind of takes away from the fun whenever he's on screen. If you can get past that, which isn't easy, seeing as how the fourth wall is nearly broken when it brings up this matter near the end, this 7th entry in a film series that is all about stunts, effects, energy, and quick editing ice or broken bar pretty much the same thing. It's a relentless series of exciting action sequences that don't generate any real tension because everyone in the audience knows that everything will turn out okay. But they look great and provide us with a great deal of trailer fodder. My favorite scene involves Vin Diesel's Dom and his allies, Walker, Michelle Rodriguez, Tyrese Gibson, and Ludacris, parachuting out of the back of a plane in a broken bar with cars. It's tremendously insane and fun to watch, and it's followed by a similarly insane moment as Walker attempts to flee from the back of a truck that is about to hurtle off a cliff. Does the story even matter? Does it matter that Jason Statham's character is a special ops assassin out to avenge his brother's death by killing Diesel and company, thus making it your typical hunter versus hunted tale? And does it even matter that Kurt Russell joins the cast as a government agent who enjoys watching these guys work? Does it matter that there's a mercenary played by Jimon Hounsou using surveillance technology to track them down? Nope, not at all. It's just an excuse to give us awesome action scenes, nothing more, nothing less. I feel that it tries to be a James Bond movie, complete with a beautiful woman, played by Natalie Emmanuel, who knows a thing or two about computer hacking. But when you have as much high-speed energy as this, you don't care much about anything else. Give the filmmakers some credit for attempts at character building, such as when Walker's character, Brian O'Connor, is struggling to choose between the adrenaline junkie life he'd gotten used to or a quiet, responsible family life he's getting used to. But other moments, such as Rodriguez's amnesiac character trying to regain her memories as Diesel's wife, aren't as successful. The film ends with a tribute to Paul Walker, which thankfully isn't done with merely a four-pall dedication but with a montage of shots of him from earlier in the series. It also has a nice reflective moment that works with the message I think was trying to get across all along. It's all about family. I won't say any more about it, but it's actually a well-done moment. I'm giving the film a mixed review, but admittedly with some affection. I do enjoy it, and I would probably see it again on DVD or on demand to see those glorious action scenes again. Bottom line here is that it either works for you or it doesn't. If you like energized, adrenaline-fueled set pieces, this is the movie for you. Just expect a little bit of pathos near the end. Furious 7 entertains us with what we exactly expect from it and a bit more than that, I must say. Like the previous films of the Fast and Furious series, it serves us with the series of outrageous vehicle action sequences. Like the better ones among them, it willingly drives so fast and furiously beyond the over-the-top level that there were several times I could not help but smile at its bold, relentless dash into the realm of sheer preposterousness, along with a cheerful, irreverent sense of humor to tickle us. Its running time is a little too long, but it is still fun to watch on the whole, and the overall result is more than enough to momentarily overlook one sad, tragic incident hovering over the film. As some of you know, the series has driven along a long, winding path which deserves to be compared to some of the trickiest drive courses in the world. After the success of The Fast and the Furious, 2001, the series took a couple of detours through two following sequels: Too Fast Too Furious, 2003, and The Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift, 2006, and then it went back to where it began in Fast Furious, 2009, and then it got a major boost through Fast 5, 2011, a crucial point where it finally found its own winning formula to be utilized again in Fast Furious 6, 2013. Furious 7 begins around where the previous film ended, so you may need to do some homework before your viewing if you are not very familiar with the series, but, if so, you will probably have no interest in watching it at all from the beginning. After defeating Owen Shaw, Luke Evans, and his bunch of goons in the previous film, Dominic Toretto, Vin Diesel, and Brian O'Connor, Paul Walker, and their gangs got the full immunity for their criminal deeds in the past thanks to federal agent Hobbs, Dwayne Johnson, so Dominic and Brian could return to their old neighborhood in LA for restarting their life. While Dominic tries to rebuild his relationship with Letty, Michelle Rodriguez, Brian tries to adjust himself to a normal life with Dominic's sister Mia, Jordana Brewster, and their young son, but it is not easy for a guy like him to live with the slow speed of stable family life, and he does miss speed and action even though the family always comes first for him. But then, as shown in the last scene of the previous film, there comes a new big problem for them. Owen's brother Deckard, Jason Statham, a shadowy ex-government agent who is more dangerous than his brother, is determined to get the revenge for Owen. Hobbs is seriously injured during his brutal confrontation with Deckard, and then Han, Sung Kang, one of Dominic and Brian's gangs, is killed by Deckard in Tokyo. Dominic also gets a surprise attack when he is with Brian and his family, and it is pretty clear to Dominic and Brian that they must take care of their situation right now. In a scene which somehow reminded me of one certain scene in David Cronenberg's Crash, 1996, Dominic and Deckard have a cutthroat showdown with their cars, and you will be surprised to see that they still have enough power and will for getting out of their cars and then being ready for more fight even after what would make any average guy numb or disoriented or unconscious at least for hours. But realism is not the first priority in the Fast and Furious movies, you know. Anyway, Dominic and his gangs soon encounter Mr. Nobody, Kurt Russell, a wily secret government agent who also wants to get rid of Deckard. While willing to help them, Mr. Nobody wants them to do something for the US government as a part of the deal. Some international terrorist group led by Jikand, Jimin Hounsou, recently kidnapped some brilliant hacker who developed an ultimate global tracking, surveillance software called God's Eye, and it is Dominic and his gang's mission to rescue that hacker in question and retrieve that invaluable, and dangerous, software as soon as possible. As they hop between various places around the world with Mr. Nobody's aid as well as Deckard's occasional ambush, Furious 7 shifts its gear into spy action thriller mode. At one point, Dominic and his gangs must infiltrate into a vault guarded with heavy security while disguising themselves as the guests invited to a big, glossy party held at the top of one of the skyscrapers in Abu Dhabi, and their slick teamwork under risky circumstance is not so far from Mission Impossible, 1996, and its sequels. Of course, the movie is mainly about the spectacular action sequences featuring those fancy, speedy vehicles to be driven by our tough boys and girls. Although it is quite apparent to us that most of these action sequences depend on a lot of CGI effects and we do not feel any serious sense of danger, the movie gleefully goes on full speed for more outrageous sights to behold. And there are many entertainingly preposterous moments in the film, such as when one character somehow manages to hang on to a vehicle driven at high speed amidst lots of bullets and bumps on the road, or that insane moment when a sports car is driven and fallen through several buildings one by one in the middle of air. The director James Wan, who took the baton from Justin Lin, did a competent job here in this film. While Wan has been mainly known for horror films such as Saw, 2004, Insidious, 2010, and The Conjuring, 2013, he also directed revenge action film Death Sentence, 2007, and Furious 7 shows his deft handling of big action scenes. Although the editing and the cinematography are a little too kinetic from time to time, the action scenes are usually accompanied with clear flow and direction even at their most frantic points. And we also get a number of effective physical fight scenes when the characters in the movie have to use their bodies instead of their vehicles. The main cast members effortlessly fill their respective roles with the convincing sense of rapport they have maintained for years outside and inside the screen. Not only they know and understand their characters well to the core, but also they clearly enjoy working with each other. While Vin Diesel and Paul Walker function as the solid center as usual, Tyrese Gibson and Ludacris give us some good laughs during their comic moments, and Dwayne Johnson relishes his own moment with gusto around the bombastic climax unfolded in the middle of the downtown area of LA. Michelle Rodriguez brings enough spunk into her character, although her character's personal trouble is the least compelling element in the film, and the same thing can be said about Natalie Emmanuel, who gives us a nice impression of smart, resourceful woman while looking as sexy as demanded. How the camera looks at female bodies in the film is pretty close to Michael Bay's films, by the way. While Djimon Hounsou is wasted in his bland, thankless villain role, Tony Jaa functions as one of Jacan's henchmen, and Jason Statham is suitably cast as your typical hardcore villain. In case of Kurt Russell, he enjoys every minute of his appearance, and the way his scene-stealing performance flips between humor and toughness is simply a delight to watch. As the final scene poignantly reminds us, Furious 7 is the last movie of Paul Walker, who died because of an unfortunate car accident in late 2013. While the production process was delayed as a result, Walker's performance was completed through CGI and body doubles. Walker's two brothers Caleb and Cody participated in the production as his stand-ins, and the end result shows no visible sign of awkwardness, although you can often sense where they tried to hide CGI and body doubles as much as possible. Making a sincere, respectful farewell to one of its stars, Furious 7 works well as a solid blockbuster action film. I was mildly entertained by the early films of the Fast and Furious series, but I was rather impressed by how this long series went further during recent years. And I must say I came to have some grudging admiration for its enduring, or endearing, quality control. The movie drives well, and it will be probably remembered well as the final film of a good actor who left us too early.